Hey, we're joined now by author Tripp Whetsell. He is the force behind this new book about the life of television magnate, producer Norman Lear. Tripp, thanks so much for being here and really chronicling the life of a seminal figure in American pop culture for decades. For anyone who doesn't know about Norman Lear, you're the biographer. Who is Norman Lear?
Well, he was the man who changed television with a string of groundbreaking sitcoms in the 1970s that were the first to deal with topical issues from race to religion to politics to you name it. All of them, most of them predominantly airing here on CBS, beginning with All in the Family in 1971.
Yeah, and these were, as you mentioned, race. I mean, some of the lead characters weren't necessarily what you would think of in TV's early days as dashing, right, upstanding, handsome figures.
That's correct. They all had
broke boundaries.
They broke boundaries that had never been broken before.
Yeah.
Never been broken before. And, you know, he was in the right place at the right time when he did it, because television was changing. CBS in particular wanted to change because they had many rural shows on television at that time, like the Beverly Hillbillies and Green Acres and Petticoat Junction, and they were looking to sort of change and, you know, have a more modern image and attract younger viewers. So he was in the right place at the right time with the right thing. But it took him a while to get the shows on the air at first.
Yeah, you go from those placid rural settings and all of a sudden you got Archie Bunker and the Jeffersons.
Right.
Hello, America.
Hello, America.
Incredible. So you live in Manhattan, but you're an affiliated faculty member of Professor and Media Studies at Emerson?
Yes.
Okay, so what's that all about?
Well, we have the first and only comedy major in the country at Emerson College. I'll thanks to an incredible woman named Marty Cook, who started the program about 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah.
And she gave me a wonderful opportunity after I did my last book on the Improv Comedy Club to teach at Emerson. I'm a graduate of Emerson myself. 1994, I teach a class also in the history of stand-up comedy. And I said, why don't we do a class on Norman Lear? Because Norman went to Emerson. We have a scholarship in his name on our Boston campus here. He was very loyal to the college, loved the college for many years, even though he didn't actually finish there. But he's had big ties to Boston and to Emerson. He spent a lot of his childhood in Boston.
Yeah.
He was born in New England, but lived in Chelsea, Massachusetts. And so I said, why don't we do a class on Norman Lear? And they said yes. And as a result of that, this is how the book came about in a very roundabout way. When my agent told this publisher, Applause Books, about the class, I said, oh, let's do a book about Norman. But I'd wanted to write a book about Norman for many years, but it finally happened this way.
About the book itself, what can readers find in this book?
Well, I'd like to say that it is it's the first comprehensive biography of Norman. He wrote his memoir back in 2014, and there were several books about his All in the Family and some of his shows, but this is the first comprehensive biography looking at his entire life and career and examining it in its full totality, from his birth in 1922 to his death last year at 101. And I try to look at, you know, what drove him, what formed him. Yeah. His early days as a comedy writer in the early days of live television, the evolution of his sitcoms, the genesis of his sitcoms, some of the behind-the-scenes struggles he had getting him on the air, and struggles he had with some of the actors like Carol O'Connor and people, and you know, things like that. So it looks at everything in full totality, I think. So I like to think of it as the whole kitchen sink and an objective look.
Yeah. Okay, that's important.
Yes.
Because you said you grew up idolizing this guy.
I did.
Did you ever have any interactions with him?
I did. He did my class at Emerson twice on Zoom during the pandemic, which was wonderful. I met him when we dedicated our statue here in Boston back in 2018. I also interviewed him for the 40th anniversary of TV Guide, which is a real treat, and got to interview him when I did my last book on the improv, and we met for about an hour in New York. Unfortunately, wasn't able to participate in this book, but I did get a chance to meet him several times. He was just a wonderful, wonderful guy, and I use the term mensch, and he always made you feel like you were the most important person in the room. He would always say, you know, it's taken me a lifetime to get here, and I can't be any happier. He was just a terrific. So cool. He was a treasure.
Tripp, you're fascinating. You're a fascinating source yourself. Author of Norman Lear, His Life and Times, doing great work at Emerson. Apparently you can teach humor, maybe not people to be funny.
Yes, and we're looking for new students, so we'd love to have you at Emerson.
Oh,
anyone who wants to major in comedy, please do.
Hey, great place, great setting, great school. Tripp, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a delight.
Absolutely.